What is going on YouTube, guys? I do have another video. Tonight is my story about my investigation at the Danvers State Hospital. A little bit about the hospital. It was built in 1874. It officially opened in 1878, and it housed just over 2,000 patients. The hospital itself closed in 1992. Now, of course, with a place like this, it had the random ghost story. Many patients and staff reported apparitions and weird sounds. Up until the demolition, local reports of screaming, and many who have trespassed actually reported having things tossed at them, and even reporting full-bodied apparitions. This location was even the site of a very famous movie called Session 9. You guys should check that out. Any location like this that has death, despair, and depression, there's undoubtedly going to be some type of energy left behind. So this took place back in 2003. I was part of a local group. We had permission to investigate a few buildings, as long as security would stay with us. I'm not going to give out exactly how we got permission. I can tell you that the lead investigator was very friendly with a couple of the security guards there, and he knew the landowner at the time. There was 6 of us. We arrived at the building. We started in the administration building. Mind you, this is before the demolition, the big fire, so almost all the main buildings were there. We separated into teams of 2, and me and a fellow member set up right in front of a staircase. The staircase led down to what I believe was actually a basement, and which would lead to the tunnels. We were sitting there, we were conducting EVPs, when we both heard at the same time a woman scream. Now, at this point, we were not allowed to go into the basement. We didn't get permission to go in the basement. Pretty much the security guard was limiting us to where we could investigate, and the basement wasn't one of them at that point. We radioed over to the rest of the team, asked them if they were in our area, and they said that they were nowhere near that. Now, I don't condone what we did next, guys. I think it was out of curiosity that we did this. We did walk down the stairways leading to a corridor, and then down another small metal staircase, and then bring us to what I'd assume is the tunnels at that point. We walked about 30 to 40 feet. Now, it was just a straight away tunnel. There was no doorways, there was no windows at that point. We got to the end, and we went to turn around, and we walked about, I would say 10 feet. And I initially, I can only explain this to you as if somebody ran up behind us. It caused us both to stop and turn around abruptly to find that there was absolutely nobody there. That's when, in the back of us, we heard a female scream, and this time it felt like it was right behind us. I'm already getting goosebumps just thinking about this, but we turned around and there was nothing there. At that point, we decided that we were going to leave that area, so we walked back to the metal staircase. And if you ever walked up a metal staircase, it's a very distinct sound as your feet hit the metal steps. We walked about 5 feet, and we heard what sounded like somebody running up the metal staircase towards us. At that point, we decided that we were going to run. I don't know why we did this. I'm quite embarrassed to this day about doing, but at that point, I think fear overcame us. We started running towards the staircase, ran back up the staircase, and we heard what sounded like somebody running up the staircase at us. At that point, I think instead of being scared, I kind of got mad that somebody was chasing us. I turned around, and there was nobody there at that point. We radioed back to the team to tell them what happened, and they all came over with a security guard. The security guard was not happy that we went into the basement, but he wasn't, he didn't yell at us or anything. He just said, I told you guys not to go down there. At that point, the lead investigator asked him if we would be allowed to go down there for a couple minutes just to see if we can see anything, take some EVPs. And he told us that there's no pay on earth that would make him go down there. And he said that you guys are more than welcome to go down there, but I'm not going down there. We asked him if he had ever experienced anything, and he says, I experience things all the time walking by that staircase. I always hear what sound like people talking down there, and I've And he actually heard a woman scream, and he told us a story about a young security guard who was only there the first night, and when he heard people talking, he thought they were trespassers, so he went down there and he told a fellow security guard that a woman chased him out of there and tried to scratch him, and when he went to turn around to confront her at that point up the staircase, she was gone. Now at that point my heart dropped in my throat because of exactly what we had just experienced. So the team and myself all went down the stairway into the corridor and then down to the tunnels again. And we're standing around kind of a circle, and we started conducting EVPs, asking who was it, why did they chase us out of there. And we all felt a very cold gust of wind pass through all of us. And within maybe 5 minutes, we heard the security guard yell to us to come back up to the stairway, and he was pretty much screaming for us. So we all ran back to him. Now we thought that he was yelling at us or something because we had made a loud noise, but he said that he was done. He wanted to get out of there, and he explained to us that he was looking down the stairway. He sat down and was just playing with his flashlight when a female woman passed by him, and he described her as having curly, natty, really dirty looking hair with a long white bathrobe, and she looked up at him and smiled. And when he went to confront her, he realized there was no way she could have passed by that because there was a wall there, and that wall actually was blocking off the rest of the tunnels. At that point, we conducted a couple more EVPs on the stairway, and then we took a couple pictures, and then he brought us to another section of the building, which was the patient dorm, if you will. It was a patient wing. He was showing us a couple of rooms, and me and the co-founder walked off to investigate another room that he said that people report seeing someone standing in the doorway. We walked in there, we sat on the floor, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen these pictures, but at that time there was actually still the beds in there with the mattresses. Now, have you ever heard of you ever sat on an old spring bed and the noise it makes when you sit down on it, the very squeaky sound? So we were sitting on the floor conducting EVPs, and we heard someone sit on the bed, that squeak on the bed as a weight pushed down on the springs. And I took my flashlight and I quickly shined on it, thinking that was one of the other team members, and there was nobody there. At that point, the co-founder asked if there was somebody in the room and if they could move something. And all of a sudden, what sounded like somebody lifting off the bed and walking out of the room. At that point, and I gotta remind you that we only had a 4-hour window at that point. We're really, really limited to investigating this place. I mean, we were lucky enough to get 4 hours in where we had investigated. At that point, we had really burnt out the night, and we were all tired at that point. And the security guard was pretty adamant that he was done at that point. So we left, and that was the majority of the investigation. Now, I do remember a couple of EVPs that we conducted that we went over the next day, and really the 4 of them that I remember can stand out to me. One was conducted down in the tunnel. It was a question asking the spirit, why do you want us out of here? And a female voice came over, a very angry female voice came over and said, get out of here. Another one asked if they can make a noise and we will leave. And then the voice came over, another female voice came over, the same voice, and said, I will kill you if you don't leave. We conducted a couple more EVPs, but the ones that stood out to me in the room that we had sat down in was if we asked if somebody had sat on the bed with us, and someone asked, why are you in my room? It was a male voice. And then another question was, could you make some noise? And then the male voice came over and said, please leave. Now, unfortunately, back in 2017, as I mentioned before, there was a major fire, and there was demolition of most of, if not all, the buildings, so they no longer stand there. It is a dream of mine, guys, to go back to this place and be able to investigate it with the knowledge I have now and the equipment. But unfortunately, it's no longer there. You know, this was a huge place for me to investigate, and unfortunately, like I said, again, it was a very limited amount of time we had to investigate. But I look back on it now, and I'm happy that I got to experience that location. Now, from my understanding, there is one main building that's still standing. I don't know what building that is. Almost all the tunnels have been completely blocked off, and the fire destroyed most, if not all, the buildings. You guys can do a little bit of research, and you can find that yourself. I'm not going to give up the name of the team I was on or the members because they haven't given me permission to give the names out. Now, if they do, and I'm going to ask the original, the former founder of the team if he still has those EVPs. If he doesn't, that would stink. But I will post them if they do, because those were really creepy EVPs. On top of the pictures that we had taken, a couple of pictures we had taken from the location, we did get a full-bodied apparition, if you will. It was in the shape of a body standing in the doorway of that room that we were told people normally see spirit standing in there. Now, another story, before we had left, the security guard had told us that, and I don't know if you guys ever heard of the story about a security guard disappearing in the location. From what my understanding is, I don't know if this story goes around Google, but this is what he told us, that the story is half true. There was a security guard who got lost in the tunnels. This is going back in the 1997, 98, when they first really had closed down and they brought security guards in. And they found him almost completely insane just because he had got lost in these tunnels, no flashlight, complete darkness. And supposedly that's what the movie Session End was kind of based on. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but this is the story the security guard shared with me. Guys, I really hope you like this video. I know it's kind of short, but for me, I would love to revisit this place, but unfortunately it's no longer there. And to me, it's probably one of the most haunted locations I've ever been, simply because the 4 hours that we were there, we experienced so much that I've gone to places and I've been there for 8 hours and experienced nothing. I really hope you like this video, guys. Keep watching, subscribe, and happy hauntings.